Hi guys and welcome back. This is part 2 of a video where I'm doing my reaction to James's running costs for his Boxster. In the first part we saw how much it cost him so far for a service, a wheel bearing, and now his clutch has failed, and we're about to find out how much it's going to cost him to replace the clutch, flywheel and the IMS bearing. Stay with us to find out the total running cost of James's car and just how much it cost. So let's jump back into the action straight after the intro.
But while it was in, sort of a bit of a miracle happened. They noticed the IMS bearing, so the clutch and flywheel and all that was being replaced. I guess that meant they could get in amongst the car, and they actually noticed that the IMS bearing was coming loose. So it wasn't going along, and the big issue is when it comes off going along, I think it damages the engine. But they actually said, right, it's expensive, but we can cover this, we can get it fixed for you. For a fraction of what it would have cost to have had the engine rebuilt should it have come off. So it was a blessing in disguise. It was expensive, but it saved me, wait for it, a £9,000 engine rebuild on the 986 Boxster.
Okay, so as I just mentioned, I would have had the bearing changed anyway. So yes, it's a godsend and it saved you money, but I would have spent the extra money even if the bearing wasn't faulty and still had it changed to cover myself. £9,000 for an engine rebuild. Oh yeah. Now then, the Boxster is a superb car. It's from an engineer's point of view, it is really well designed. It is really easy to work on. And components for the car aren't particularly expensive if you shop around. The two main parts of the Boxster that you really need to look after are the engine and the gearbox. Those two components are expensive. Okay, so look after them like your life depends on it. As for an engine rebuild, personally, if ever the worst should happen, I would go for a second-hand engine. You can get very good second-hand engines with like a year's warranty on them for around £3,500. With that in mind, did you go for a second-hand flywheel?
The work, I haven't broken it down into the individual parts, but I had the IMS bearing done, the clutch and the flywheel for a grand whopping total of £2,036.
How much? £2,036? That sounds very expensive. I would love to know the breakdown of the parts and the labour costs on that, James. I really would, because I think when I did my clutch, I think it was about £270 for a clutch kit. I don't know what the going cost of a flywheel is. I would certainly not put a new flywheel on. I would have gone for a second-hand flywheel. And I don't know, I've never needed to replace the bearing, the IMS bearing on my car. The gearbox is not difficult to get out of the Boxster. In actual fact, I would say that it's no harder to remove the gearbox from a Boxster than it is from a good old-fashioned Ford Cortina.
Getting on to our last couple, I had an MOT, £36, no advisories, sorted, banging, wonderful, chuck it on the list, £36. For those who aren't from the UK actually, by the way, an MOT is something you've got to have done, it's a law, and essentially it says, yes, your car has airbags, it passes emission tests, it goes through all these checklists they've got to do with the car to say essentially it's safe, and you get that sorted. It can't be more than £50 a year for the cost of having an MOT done, I believe. More competitive rates of sort of 36 quid. I paid actually 36 plus 15, put 15 on the list because that was the handling charge that Brookspeed charged me. They didn't do it themselves, they sent it elsewhere. But the day after the MOT was done, what was it time to do? The cat. I had a two-part exhaust system put on the car. Now, it was a Euro Cup GT exhaust system. I know this isn't sort of a running repair cost, so I might leave it off the list. But before I give you the grand total, I'm just going to talk you through how much this cost. It was a two-part system. So the 2.7 litre 986 Boxster has three parts to its exhaust. It has the manifolds.
I replaced my manifolds with stainless steel manifolds. I think my memory serves me right, it was £106 for the pair.
Which sort of come out of the engine, and then it has the CATs, the catalytic converters.
Okay, yep, second the CATs. I put a pair of sports CATs on mine, £60 each.
And then it has the rear box, muffler, whatever you want to call it. It's got so many different names floating around, but essentially the rear box of the car.
Now I had mine custom built in stainless steel by a company up in London. That cost me £450, and that comes with a lifetime guarantee.
And I decided to replace the rear box and the mufflers. The rear box and the catalytic converters. Now the rear box was sort of like 300 quid or so as a part. It was less restrictive, and so I had that put on the car. And I didn't want to spend too much money. And this is probably actually where it went wrong. I chose to put on decap pipes because they were £300 as a part, as opposed to £750 for the sports cats. Now this meant obviously it wouldn't pass MOT, and I needed to get some O2 bungs and stuff, otherwise I would have a red light anyway. So I did that. I got all the parts bought for that. It was actually really expensive. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I put sports cats on. I think it would have worked out a similar money in the end. But essentially, as parts before sort of VAT and stuff, actually I can chuck VAT on there. So for the exhaust, it was just for parts, £1,177.
£1,170. Okay, total cost for my exhaust was £676. It's all stainless steel except the cats, and the main part of the exhaust has a lifetime guarantee.
Now I thought it was going to be more like 600, 300 for the decap pipes, straight pipes, Euro Cup GT, and 300 for the rear box. And it was for that, but it needed O2 sensor spacers, which was sort of 50 quid plus VAT. I needed two of them, 100 quid plus VAT. And my lambda sensors broke. Now I can't actually tell you what they are. It sounds stupid. I paid for them. I should know. But I was sort of trusting Brooksby to tell me. I needed 3 lambda sensors replacing. Now you can have up to 4 that need replacing. When they come out, they were sort of seized. They were old. I had 3 taken on that, replaced on that. So that was £240 plus VAT.
Okay, you need to clarify what you're telling us here, James, because O2 sensors and lambda sensors are the same thing. Early cars only had 2, mine only has 2, later cars had 4. So yours will have 4. So you're telling us you had 2 oxygen sensors and 3 lambda sensors changed, that's 5. So it sounds like one of them has been changed twice, so you need to clarify exactly what's going on there for us. The price, I paid about £60 each for the sensors, and I changed them myself.
And yeah, so that bit was £1,177. Chuck in the labour on the car for fitting all that, which was 3 hours.
Yeah, okay, you had those replaced. I have got a video. They do tend to seize in because of the age of the exhaust and the heat of the exhaust, but they shouldn't be seized. If you had all the exhaust replaced, they must have changed the sensors over when they replaced the exhaust. So did you have the sensors done before you had the exhaust done? That's a question there, because the sensors, as I said, they screw into the exhaust. I have got a video on how to, because it's so common for them to seize in, I do actually have a video specifically on how to get the oxygen sensors or the O2 sensors or the lambda sensors out. So let's carry on.
And we come to, with that and everything all inclusive, a grand total of £1,502.
Okay, yeah, as I said, a bit confused, James. So 1,500 and something pounds for all your exhaust bits and the replacement of your oxygen sensors slash lambda sensors slash O2 sensors. You've confused me. You have confused me there, because O2, oxygen and lambda sensors are the same things, and I believe, yeah, your car has 4 of them. You've mentioned 5, so confused there. You said you paid £50 each for 2 of them, which is a very good price. So yeah, I did mine myself for 60 quid, so on top of the cost of my exhaust, I'm probably looking, was it 670 I said for the exhaust? So yeah, just shy of £800 altogether for mine.
Now, I probably should have done it myself. I'm not mechanically minded. I don't know where that would have got me, but that is a lot of money. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is go on to another clip where I tell you the total cost of all this work having been done. So yeah, guys, adding that total cost up, prior to adding the exhaust, the cost comes to £2,980.49.
Okay, so basically, let's round it up, £3,000 you've spent for the year on 14,000 miles of mileage. That, I would say, it's over the top by about 1,000. For what you've done, I would say around £2,000 is a more realistic figure. And although you say that's for 14,000 miles of motoring, a lot of your problems first off have come from obviously the car's low mileage. It hasn't been used, and now you're paying the penalty for that. But bear in mind that all of these components that you've replaced will have a lifespan of around 100,000 miles or 10 years. So spread that cost out over the next 10 years of motoring. And look at it from that point of view. You're not going to have to change a clutch every year. You're not going to have to change the wheel bearing every year. You may have to change 3 other wheel bearings, be warned.
Now that's a cost for doing 14,000 miles. Obviously that's a lot of money. I didn't expect that getting into the car. I thought buying probably what was the most expensive 2.7 litre 986 Boxster on the market at the time, with the lowest miles and potentially the best condition. I thought buying that, I wouldn't have that sort of cost. Now obviously I did. Hopefully some of that has now been done and won't need doing for a good few years. Maybe the clutch, depending on my driving, who knows. But yeah, £2,980.49.
Buying the most expensive, money doesn't always solve the problems. Buying a really low mileage car probably did not go in your favour, to be perfectly honest. As I mentioned earlier, you've got to look at both time, age, as well as mileage. They can work against each other as a double-edged blade. So yeah, it's a 20 or almost a 20-year-old car. Most of the components on that car are well past their shelf life. Usable life, their mileage life, no, they're nowhere near. But their shelf life, yes. For example, let's look at a battery. Okay, we're moving towards the winter months now. Okay, how old is the battery on your car. The shelf life of the average car battery is 5 years. Even if the battery is working perfectly fine, they don't say that they will last more than 5 years. After 5 years, expect it to be trouble. Okay, so think preventive maintenance. Think about the shelf life of a component as well as its working life, its mileage. So yeah, that, you know, when you're buying an old car, you've got to take that into consideration.
If we add on the exhaust, and I forgot to mention car mats. I actually got some new car mats for the car, which were £110. If we chuck that on there, in the last year since buying the car, I have spent £4,592.49. But yeah, that is a lot of money to spend on a 986 Boxster. That is half of the value of the car, considering I paid about £11,000 for it. So that is pretty much half the value of the car.
What? You paid £11,000? That is horrific price. Why did you pay so much for a 986? You could have got a nice 987 or even a 911 for that sort of money. I went onto eBay and I could not find another 986 for anywhere near that sort of money. That is very, very excessive. As you said, with adding the cost of the exhaust on, you don't have to do the exhaust. That was a choice that you made. But then again, that is preventive maintenance, because it is not, you now know that that is something that is good for 100,000 miles, 10 years, not going to give you any problems.
So if we chuck that all together, I'm well over sort of, or just under actually 15k on that, or pretty much bang on really. So yeah, 15k in the car in the last sort of year, and if you go back to when I bought it, a year and a few months.
Bear in mind here, you went for a classic car. 15k, you could have gone out and bought yourself something a lot younger that's been used more. So it would essentially be a lot more reliable. Did you specifically want an 18-year-old classic car? The same thing again, you bought a car very low mileage in pristine condition. If pristine condition, low mileage car is important to you, it's something that needs to be garaged and kept that way. That should be in a display or a museum, or a collector's car. Practical classics, they're not going to stay pristine. You're using them every day. They're going to get marks, they're going to get bits and pieces go wrong. So it's a case of what you want for what you've spent. You've spent £15,000 on this car. It's not going to not break down on you. It's not going to be not unreliable. It is an 18-year-old classic car. That's part of the fun. That's what it's all about. I've seen classic Ferraris sat by the side of the road with people under the bonnet fixing them, This is the way the game goes. If you want something that's reliable, easier to maintain and run, buy something a lot newer.
What I want you guys to do is tell me, do you think those costs sound reasonable? In the comments below, could you have got them lower elsewhere? What have you paid for those parts? And have you got any nightmare stories? I think it might be cool maybe to do a segment at some time in the future talking about nightmare ownerships of Porsches, potentially Porsche Boxsters, whatever you guys want to see.
Okay, nightmare ownership. That's the same thing again, it's how you perceive it. All the things that you've mentioned, all the things you've talked about and the way I've responded to them is part of classic car, not Porsche ownership, but classic car ownership. There I think is the big difference, okay? You're looking at it from the point of view of Porsche ownership. You're not looking at it from the point of view of classic car ownership. All of the things that you've mentioned are all part of classic car ownership. Finding, if you can't fix things yourself, finding the right people to fix the specific parts, sourcing parts, finding parts, finding out about the history of the car, the model of car, and what problems are with it and what they're likely to be, is all part of classic car ownership. And it's not a nightmare, it's a joy. It's why we do it. We do it because of these challenges. We do it to prove that you can set a budget and stick to a budget. To some people, that's nightmare ownership, because some people, they just want to get in, turn the key and drive it. And that's all they want. So it's how you view the problems of ownership.
So it might be fun to do that at some point. Once again, make sure to subscribe. I've actually just filmed a video on someone who crashed into my Porsche. My painter reversed into my car, did some damage, and I've done a whole video talking about that. If you want to hear the exhaust, I've got some videos out on that as well. I've got a new one coming out potentially before this, or after this. Make sure to check my videos out. I don't really know at this point, it's absolute chaos. But yeah, make sure to check that out. It's a video on taking my Porsche to a supercar show. I actually join a convoy of 50 McLarens. You hear my car with its straight pipe in sort of full action with the GoPro, and then I walk around the Beauty Supercar show as well, including some videos of cars going up the hill there. But yeah, I've done some configurations. I'm going to do one today, I think, on an Alpine A110S. So I've done some spec talk videos as well. Make sure to subscribe, drop me a comment, like the video if you enjoyed it, and yes guys, I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.
Okay guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't seen part 1, please go and watch it. There's a link at the bottom for James's video. There's also a link at the end of this video, just after this bit, so please go and give his videos a look. Share your thoughts on and your experiences on running a box or running any car, the running costs, tips, tricks that you use to keep the costs down and resolve the problems. As always, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to my channel and to James's, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.